Good afternoon. Last night, our community experienced what can happen in any community when a violent, wanted felon is completely committed to not going back to jail. So we had several of our officers come to work yesterday along with a federal agent, intending to do what they do every day at work, protect this community. And when they saw this known wanted violent felon, they went to arrest him, and that's what started the major event that we had here last night that went on for several hours. The suspect ran from the officers, and it soon became very clear that he was intent on getting away and even murdering any officer that stood in his way. Unfortunately, we had 5 of our officers injured in that incident, and the federal agent that was injured in that incident. Eventually, through very hard work of many other law enforcement agencies, local businesses, other city departments, and many more that came to our aid last night that numbered in the hundreds, we were able to successfully get him into custody, and he is now at the Placer County Jail. Also last night, because some of the things you'll hear soon that he did, he put a lot of people in danger besides law enforcement officers. Because of that, we evacuated 14 or 15 homes in the area, which included sheltering 15 people at the Maidu Community Center. So there's many people displaced out of the neighborhood. And again, with the help of many other agencies. And before I turn it over to Lieutenant Walstead for the details of some of the things that happened last night, I wanted to give you an update on the officers and how they're doing. So last night we had 5 officers injured at various points in this incident, either by gunshot or by fragments resulting from gunshots. So those officers ranged in age from early 30s to 40 years old. They also ranged in experience from 6 to 11 years. We are very fortunate that 4 of them were treated at the hospital and have been released along with the federal agent. Unfortunately, we still have 1 officer in critical condition, or excuse me, in serious condition at the hospital that is going to survive, but is still in serious condition at the hospital. So we are in the process now of still investigating exactly what happened, so we're in the very early stages of that, and also getting our officers back to full health and making sure they physically recover and become healthy folks again. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lieutenant Walstead. After that, we have someone from Homeland Security Investigations, and then we'll open it up to a few questions. So, Lieutenant Walstead.
Thank you all for being here today. Yesterday, our events happened at about 15:03, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We had a team of our crime suppression unit officers that were in the area of 6th Street. They had an ICE agent with them that was working alongside them as a gang expert just in the area. Now, the reason the officers were there was not to look for the suspect that they encountered. They were there on a different operation to check with some of the apartment buildings in the area. They saw the suspect, knew that he was a wanted parolee, he was riding a bicycle, and at that time, one of the officers exited their vehicle and went after the man on foot. The other 2 officers that were in the car turned around and chased him as he was riding his bicycle. At that time, there were shots that were exchanged at about 15:04, 3:04 in the afternoon. The ICE agent was injured at that time, and the officers put out the call of officer down. Responding officers from patrol came in. One of our officers grabbed the ICE agent as he was down, put him in his patrol car, and took him directly to the hospital. At about 15:05, Officers saw the suspect in the area of 6th Street and Windsor, where additional shots were exchanged. A perimeter was set. At that time, the suspect was supposedly in a house on the 600 block of Windsor Avenue, and SWAT officers went to that area. That house was occupied by a mother and a small child, along with a father. They were able to get out of the house through 2 separate locations. As officers responded to that area, SWAT officers responded to that area, the suspect shot through the side of the resident and through an open window at the officers, and that's the way the officers received the injuries that they received. Communications was set up at the house with our hostage negotiation team. They talked to the suspect inside the house for several hours. Communication broke down at one time and then was reestablished, and at 12:30 last night he surrendered to officers outside of the home. That would be a recap of the incident that happened last night. At the present time, the investigation is ongoing. We have streets closed on 6th Street at Windsor. Also, the 200 block of 6th Street is closed, and the 600 block of Hampton is closed. Now, we do have citizens that still have not been able to get to their homes. If they need to be able to get to their homes, they certainly can go to the area and talk to one of the perimeter officers that are there, and they can escort them to their homes physically, but there's not going to be any cars in the area. We have 3 separate crime scenes that we're running right now. So we have several officers out there, and this is an ongoing investigation, and it's going to take some time. We really want the citizens to realize that we're doing our best work and ask for their patience with the crime scene investigators as they gather all the evidence they need in this case. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Wallstead. I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of ICE Homeland Security Investigations to express our appreciation to our law enforcement colleagues and to the community for the outpouring of support and concern we've received over the last few hours. Fortunately, the veteran HSI special agent who was shot and wounded is expected to make a full recovery. Owing to the extraordinary law enforcement response yesterday, a violent individual has been taken off the street, and we're gratified to have played a role in that effort. HSI will continue to work closely with its law enforcement partners to promote public safety and ensure the quality of life in our communities. Thank you.
With that, we'll open it up to a few questions.
Chief, can you tell us what kind of weapon the suspect had and what exactly happened when it began? I'm sure you've seen reports of witnesses claiming that the ICE officer was wounded by either his own weapon or by those police officers' weapons.
Yes, we can't get into too much detail about what weapons the suspect had. We know for a fact he had a handgun at one point, but again, we're very early in the investigations to confirm much more than that. We also heard the rumors about what you said about the federal agent shooting himself. So far, all the evidence that we have collected so far does not point to that. There's no evidence that we have seen so far that would lead us to believe that, other than him being shot by the suspect.
You said that there's an exchange of gunfire at the beginning, so that means he had a weapon while he was on the bike, correct?
Yes.
Did he have more than one?
We don't know yet.
You believe the exchange was between the officers and the one suspect, no one else involved, right?
Correct.
Can you clarify if they were initially looking for Duran or if this was part of a broader gang sweep?
They were not. They were going about their normal business when they happened to see him, and he's well known. He's a validated gang member that our officers have been dealing with for many years. He actually ran from other officers a few nights earlier and got away. So when they saw him, they went to arrest him, and that's when it all started.
What were the charges against him?
He's being charged with his parole violation and numerous attempted murder charges.
What was the parole violation of, what was
That's the charge, violating his parole.
But what was the underlying
I don't know.
offense?
Initially, he was in Placer County Jail, and he was released from Placer County Jail. And then he violated his parole, and then they issued a warrant for his arrest in regards to that parole violation.
But do you know why he was in originally?
Originally,
What his offense was?
originally in Placer County Jail was for another parole violation. And so he was in Placer County Jail for a parole violation. He stayed there until June, and at that time he was released. He didn't meet the conditions of his parole, and so another warrant was issued for his arrest at that time.
His warrant was for violating his parole. We don't necessarily know what he did to violate his parole.
You don't know what his 2008 offense was that,
We're not getting into his specific charges at this time.
Can you tell us if he has a history of violence, so you can't use?
He has a lengthy history of violence, yes.
Drugs, abuse?
He has a lengthy history of violence. That's all. We're not going to get into the
The family
specific
inside of
charges.
the home, did they get out prior to the exchange of gunfire with his gun out and trying to shoot at the officers?
Yeah, at one time, there was a couple different exchanges of gunfire, but yes, in the house, I believe they got out first, we think.
Prior to the.
Yes.
Can you clarify how many officers were hit by shrapnel and how many were struck by bullets?
Yeah, 4 of the officers were hit, what we believe is shrapnel, and were treated at the hospital, and one of the officers was hit by a bullet, and the federal agent was hit by a bullet.
and you believe all the injuries stem from him firing at them?
Yes.
Last night we got some information about where the officers were shot. Can you clarify which one received which injury?
No, not this time.
The initial shooting, the ICE officer that was shot, was he in the car? Was he the one on foot? You said one of them broke off on foot, the other 2 followed in the car
He was actively chasing the suspect when he was shot.
on foot.
Yes.
Did he say conditions for his surrender? Or how did that come about in terms of
Yeah,
negotiating?
we're not going to get into details of that. We're just thankful that eventually, through lengthy negotiations, he came out and no further violence happened. So we're very thankful for that.
Have you recovered his handgun?
We're very early in the investigation, so we're not going to get into a lot of those details because we got a long ways to go in this investigation.
Any gang affiliation?
Yes.
Given Homeland Security's role in this investigation, will he likely stay at Placer County Jail, or is there a possibility that he could be moved?
Those are all questions you'd have to ask the district attorney's office and the folks that go from there.
Can you clarify the 3 different crime scenes and how that flows in terms of the sequence of events?
I'm Lieutenant Mark Glenn with the Roseville Police Department. I was the incident commander yesterday. And just to clarify, because this question's been rehashed about 5 times, the final location was 600 Hampton Street. That's where the family was, okay? So it starts on 6th Street, there's more gunfire on Windsor. We finish it at Hampton, 600 Hampton. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Can you tell us the injuries the suspect got? His mugshot shows a lot of cuts to his face.
Yeah, he had a gunshot wound to his hand, and he had scrapes and things to his head and face.
Does Homeland Security commonly participate in local gang sweeps?
Yes, we do. We have agents who are specialized in gang investigations, and so, yes.
Is that the extent of Homeland Security's interest in this case were gangs, or were there other elements that brought us to Roseville?
I don't know.
Do we have another?
Let me answer that. Just as a reminder, they were not looking for the suspect. They happened to see them as they were going, so there was no intent to hook up with a federal agent to go find this gentleman. They saw him on their way.
Do we have an understanding of how long the suspect had been in this neighborhood hiding out, per se?
With his parole violation, you mean?
Yeah.
I'm sure the date can be found when he got his first parole violation warrant, but I don't know that off the top of my head, no.
So,
Been at least a week or so because he ran from officers a few nights earlier.
There were reports that he was perhaps turning on gas inside the home. I mean, how much of a safety concern was it for the residents?
That was a major concern. So there was reports of him turning on gas and then actually evidence that there was gas from both officers and people calling us from the neighborhood saying they could smell gas. So if you saw the PG&E trucks last night, that's why they were there, because the last thing we wanted is for that house and all the surrounding houses to blow up from all the gas igniting. So that's why PG&E was there. That we believe he turned on that gas. Why, we can't know for sure at this point, but that was a major concern for us last night.
Did PG&E shut down gas?
Yes. Yes. Any other questions?
There were reports of a second suspect last night. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I haven't heard that one, but there was no second suspect.
We know you have family in the area. Do we know which family was in the area?
He does have family in the area, yes.
Okay. Do we know when neighbors will regain access to their homes?
They have somewhat limited access now. So in the outer area, they can get to their homes. If it's inside those locations that the lieutenant talked about and they live there, they can go to the perimeter officers and we will escort them into their house. It's still an active crime scene that went quite a distance, as you can tell, and so we need to preserve the evidence that's in the area. So they can get to their houses in most cases, but we will escort them to their house.
Do you know how many rounds your officers fired?
I do not.
Officers fired?
I do not.
No idea the total amount of gunshots.
I do not.
The first incident, the shooting incident, was just the ICE officer injured. The second was where all the others were injured, or was it like how, between the three crime scenes, how many were injured?
We're not going to get into all those details right now, but they were injured at multiple locations, and there was multiple officers and multiple agencies that fired.
You can release their names?
No.
So the ICE officer, he was the first one to get shot. You said he was pursuing the suspect on foot, and then there were two cars following the suspect as well. Were those two cars Roseville PD?
There was Roseville PD officers with ICE, yes.
Okay.
Did the suspect fire first?
Yes.
Do you know when the officer that's still in the hospital will be released?
I do not. Like I say, he's in serious condition, so we're hoping he can recover as fast as possible.
And that was the officer that was shot in the jaw, correct?
Shot in the upper body, yes.
His injuries are considered non-life-threatening, is that correct?
Yes.
Was the first shot fired by the suspect the one that injured the ICE officer?
We believe so at this point, yes.
So did the BMX track have anything to do with it?
No, he was just in that area. Thank you.
How instrumental were his family in giving himself up peacefully in the negotiations?
Again, we're not going to get into the intricate details of the negotiations, but let's just say it took a lot of work on the negotiators' part to have it end the way it did. Thank you.